Morning, everyone. My original plan was to go outside and film today's video because we've had such a beautiful week, but today not so great. So I decided to come at you from inside my little office here. I actually put some makeup on for the occasion so I don't look so as I have been. So what we're going to do today is we're going to review the muscular system. You guys did an excellent job on that internet treasure hunt, but there were some areas of confusion, and it is a confusing topic. So I thought it would be a good idea to use today as a review day. So you'll have a couple of different options for review. Besides watching this video, the other two things that I've included are optional. So I've included two Quizlets, one on the skeletal system, one on the muscular system. And the cool thing about that is you can go through the flashcards, you can play games, and you can even do Quizlet Live and link up with other people from your classes or from CASE. So that might be fun. And then the third thing is an exercise video. It's a 20-minute video geared towards your age level. And I figured since we're talking about the muscular skeletal system and putting our bodies in motion and how they move, it might be a fun thing to do. I actually tried the workout myself, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little sore today. So let's go over the muscular system. Let's talk about the functions of it first. So the important thing to understand, and some of you hinted at this in the treasure hunt yesterday or scavenger hunt, whatever you want to call it, is that it works with two other systems to help our body move. It works with the skeletal system, which makes sense because we know the skeletal system is made up of bones, ligaments, tendons, and cartilage. And it also works with the nervous system, which is basically our communication system. And that's probably the most complicated system out of all of them. So we're gonna venture into that one next week. But those three systems work together in terms of having our body perform functions such as movement. It also does something that we don't think about. When we think about the muscular system, we think of, working out and building muscles. So movement kind of comes naturally to the front of our thinking. But it also helps control other things that we don't think about as we're doing them, like breathing. So I don't sit here and think about, I gotta breathe in and out. It's just happening naturally, but that's actually part of your muscular system at work there. Same thing for digestion. Like when we eat in the digestive process, which will be another body system we talk about, the muscular system is involved in that as well. And also in blood flow. So when we get to the circulatory system, we talk about blood flowing through our body. Our muscular system is also at work there. So we're starting to see how systems interact and work together. Again, muscles also help create our build, our physical build and our shape. So the more we work them out, the more we can kind of change that shape in our general appearance. We have two muscle categories. We have voluntary muscles, which are muscles we can control. So the muscles I use when I lift my arm up to raise my hand, or when I'm playing the drums, or I'm running, or if I'm lifting my leg, bending my elbow, bending my leg, those are voluntary muscles because I have control of them, okay? So I'm saying I want to raise my hand. Sorry, I had a little phone call that interrupted me, so I kicked it off there. Then we have involuntary muscles. Now, involuntary muscles are muscles that I can't control. I have no control over them. A good example of an involuntary muscle is our heart. I don't control my heart beating. That's just happening involuntarily without me controlling it. I'm not saying heartbeat. It's doing that on its own. So you have voluntary muscles you can control, like the ones to lift my arms and legs or move my, head back and forth or nod. And then I have involuntary muscles I cannot control, like the muscles that are involved in my digestion, in my breathing, and also like my heart muscle. So you learned yesterday that there's three types of muscles: skeletal, cardiac, and smooth. But I didn't really have you do any research about the three of them. Some of you went a little above and beyond and actually told me the difference between them, and I thought that was really cool. But I knew I was going to go over it with you today. So skeletal muscles work with your body to help it move. So it's kind of like your skeletal system and muscular system work together, and those are your skeletal muscles. Remember that muscles are attached to bone by tendons. So that's what's going to connect your muscles to your bones. These types of muscles give you strength, and they're also voluntary because these are the ones that we have control over. So again, we're talking about the muscles that are attached to our arms, muscles that are attached to our legs, to our necks, and so on. So those are your skeletal muscles. Your cardiac muscle is one muscle. It's your heart. So when we talk about the cardiovascular system, you're talking about your heart. When you're talking about cardio exercises, you're talking about exercises to get your heart pumping and your blood flowing. Your cardiac muscle or your heart muscle is the hardest working muscle in your body, which kind of makes sense because it's beating all day, every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it makes sense that in your lifetime, that is going to be the hardest working muscle. And this is an involuntary muscle. Again, we don't have any control over it. I don't have to sit here and think about my heart beating. It's just happening naturally. You have smooth muscle. And smooth muscles are usually found lining the walls of your organs. So when I think of smooth muscles, two come to mind. Your stomach is a muscle, which your stomach's actually, and again, we'll talk about more of this with the digestive system, but when food gets into your stomach breaks down the food two ways. Once it kind of spits out enzymes, which dissolves it. But the other thing is because the muscle is, because the stomach is a muscle, it's relaxing and contracting and kind of like squeezing and churning that food and breaking it down. So that's kind of interesting to think about your stomach as a muscle. Your bladder, which is basically a sac that holds your urine, is a muscle, and it kind of makes sense. So think about when you have to go to the bathroom, right? And you raise your hand, you say, I have to go to the bathroom. And I say, okay, can you wait a couple of minutes? Somebody's out, and you're like, yep, I can wait. The reason you can wait is because that muscle is holding that urine in. When the muscle relaxes, it releases the urine. As people age, sometimes when people age, they lose control of their bladder, right? So when we talk about adult diapers, when they lose control of their bladder, they don't have control over that muscle anymore. That muscle relaxes and allows the urine to release when it really shouldn't. So we just talked about the categories of muscles, the types of muscles, and the functions of the muscular system. Let's go over some of those questions from the treasure hunt yesterday because there were some pretty interesting things there. And even though I correct your work, it's kind of good to go over all of them. So the first thing said how many muscles are in the human body. So there's about 650 muscles. The other thing that's kind of interesting is your muscles make up about half of your total body weight. So muscles have a great weight to them, and they're also about 15 times more dense, than your bones are as well. How do muscles work? So muscles work by a series of relaxations and contractions. Sorry, I'm having trouble talking today. A lot of you talked about the role of the nervous system too, about our brain sending signals to certain parts of our body, telling them to move. So again, that's how the muscular system reacts with the nervous system and skeletal system to create that movement. But it's the relaxations and contractions that allow the muscles to work. So one of the specific ones I asked you is like when you bend your arm, how does bending your arm work? Well, you have your biceps and you have your triceps. And when your bicep contracts and your tricep relaxes, that's how you bend your arm. And we call our biceps the flexors and our triceps the extensors. When I want to relax my arm, the opposite happens. Okay, the biceps then relax and the triceps then contract. So just, an understanding that most muscles work in pairs. That's important. That was another question. When we talk about which muscle moves more than any other muscle, it's your eyes. And it has nothing to do with the blinking. Some of you said, yeah, every time you blink, muscles are at work. Well, that's true. But there's muscles in the inner part of your eye that are working constantly that we don't think about and we don't realize. And those move about 100,000 times a day, which is crazy to think about that kind of motion that's happening. In terms of the job it performs, the muscles can also be considered the strongest muscles. But when we talk about the force, your masseter, which are the muscles that are attached to your mandible or your jawbone, those are actually the strongest muscles. And it kind of makes sense when you think about what that muscle has to do to help you chew and to help you with the motion in your mouth. The smallest muscle is attached to your smallest bone. So your smallest bone was your stirrup in your ear. And the stapedius is that muscle attached to that. So that's the smallest muscle in your body. The biggest muscle is your gluteus maximus, which is your butt muscles. So that's actually the biggest muscle in your body, which is interesting. So it is made up of muscle, not just fat like people think. It takes 17 muscles to smile and 43 muscles to frown. So it actually takes your body more work to be sad and frown than it does to smile. Your face has over 43 muscles in it, which is why we can change our facial expressions and show like surprise or anger, right? It's those muscles in our face that are controlling those facial expressions. The longest muscle is your sartorius, and your sartorius is in your thigh. It goes from like your thigh to your knee. So think about where your femur is, the longest bone. That muscle's attached to part of that bone, so it kind of makes sense. Again, remember, tendons are what attach the muscles to the bone. Something that wasn't mentioned in there but was mentioned in the video was shivering. If you shiver, why do you shiver or get a chill? That's actually your muscles expanding and contracting to cause heat. So when you're cold and you get a shiver, it's an involuntary muscle reaction, that contraction and contraction and relaxation that causes your body to heat up. Muscle memory is something you hear a lot about if you're an athlete, whether that's dancing or gymnastics or swimming or baseball or track or basketball, anything about that. And they talk about the muscles remembering. What happens is by doing this similar action over and over and over again, your muscles kind of remember that movement, which is an interesting thing to talk about. So when they talk about muscle memory, that's what they're mentioning. Another muscle that wasn't mentioned in the video at all is your diaphragm. So your diaphragm we'll talk more about with the respiratory system, but that's the muscle that helps push air in and out of your lungs. So it's beneath where your lungs are, and it's kind of a long, smooth like muscle. So kind of interesting to think how our body works. So make sure you watch this video. Make sure you spend some time reviewing whether that's Quizlet or you want to do the workout video, something a little different. If you'd rather, and it's a beautiful day, go outside and work your muscles that way. Remember, in one step, you're using over 200 muscles, so work it out. All right, have a great day. Talk to you soon.